everyone! There is one show that has been dominating my feed and my mind for a few weeks now, and that show is Dungeon Meshi, or Delicious in Dungeon. Dungeon Meshi is a comedy slash adventure slash gourmet anime that follows Laios and his party and their efforts to save Fallen, Laios' little sister. To do that, and because they are absolutely broke, Laios' party ends up having to cook monsters along the way to sustain themselves. It's a really fun series, very comical and absurd at times. It's animated by Trigger, one of my favorite anime studios, and they obviously had a lot of fun animating some of the sequences in the show. I highly recommend it. So in this video I'm going to take the main characters and draw them as if they lived in modern times. Also, this video, admittedly, is an excuse for me to draw my favorite characters from Dungeon Meshi because, unfortunately, I don't have a lot of time to do personal art or art just for fun. I do try to post twice a week and I have a whole comic in the works. I don't exactly have a lot of time. I still hope you guys find this video enjoyable, and please, if you want a part 2, comment down below. I'd love to draw Modern Fallen. I even have an idea for her already. And now, without further ado, let's get to it. Let's begin our video with the party leader, Laios. Laios is such a goofball. I love him. He's probably my favorite character of the show. People think he might be autistic, and I agree. And if it turns out to be canon, I'll be really happy because good representation is always hard to find, and Laios is an incredible character. He's also pretty relatable, and I don't think you need to be autistic to find him relatable. For example, I don't have autism, but I find his devotion to what he loves really relatable. For those who don't know, Laios is very obsessed with monsters, and his biggest dream was to know everything about them, including how they tasted like. And during the entirety of the show, Laios shows how much he loves monsters, how much he knows about them, and how much he wants to learn about them. This is his special interest, and he often ends up rambling about monsters. This trait reminds me so much when I was a kid because as a child, and to a degree as an adult as well, I would find myself loving something, a show, a game, a book series, and I would talk about it endlessly with just as much enthusiasm as Laios has for his interest in monsters. I'm not gonna lie, Laios can be pretty weird. He really doesn't have good people skills, and sometimes he doesn't react to some things in a way that people would consider normal. I could go into specifics about it, but I really don't want to spoil anyone. Regardless, I think these traits make him even more lovable, especially since if he says something weird, it's just never out of malicious or a lack of care. He truly cares, it just doesn't show it in a conventional way. And it's also interesting to note that whenever he gets a little bit too eccentric, his party is always ready to keep him in check. And when they do, they never do it in a disrespectful way, although they do give him weird looks from time to time. When I was drawing him, I wanted to dress him in very comfortable clothes that would be practical and you could move around without issues. So I gave him overalls. Maybe I'm biased because I honestly love overalls. I have so many pairs in my wardrobe. I think they are peak practical clothing. And then under the overalls I gave him a cozy sweater with a turtleneck because in his original design his armor has this neck protection thing that he sometimes uses to carry veggies. That kinda looks like a turtleneck. I also gave him a piece of bread because Laios is a hungry boy and he loves snacks, and we should never forget about the bread episode. The bread episode was really good, please watch Dungeon Meshi. Next up we have Marcille. Marcille is an elf girl slash mage of the party and she has dominated the internet. I think Laios and Marcille are the most popular characters and they are the ones that the show focuses on the most, since they are the closest ones to Fallen, the girl they are trying to save. In fact, the most popular ship in the fandom is Marcille x Fallen because they are that close. Marcille is a straight man of the group and she's the one that is the most against eating monsters. At least at first, eventually she just gets used to it, or maybe she just lost the will to complain about it. Because yes, Marcille is a complainer, she's a picky eater and her smile tantrums are hilarious, especially in the first few episodes. She always ends up eating and enjoying the food though. She's really girly and she loves to change her hairstyle. She always wears her hair in different braids every episode, and sometimes she'll change her hairstyle more than once per episode. She justifies this by telling the group that hair is a magical ingredient that can be used in charms and spell, but let's be real. The real reason is that she really just loves her long hair and loves to style it. Like I mentioned before, Marcille is the magic user of the party, and there is a lot to talk about when it comes to her magic abilities. However, they are, for the most part, spoilers, and since I don't want to spoil anyone, I'll stick to the most basic information. She is very experienced and she is very studious. She studied magic for a long time, she went to a magical academy, and she does things by the book. She has a hard time thinking outside the box in that sense. Consequently, her magic is good and is effective most of the time, but when things go wrong, they go wrong, and she isn't nearly as effective as other magic users, like for example Falin. Because she's pretty nerdy, I wanted to dress Marcille in a very academic/preppy outfit, so a flannel dress with her robe collars, a white shirt, and a big red bow. I drew her with the first hairstyle we saw her in, knowing full well that she would change it every time she got the chance to. I also gave her a pretty bracelet that will come into play if you guys end up wanting a part 2 for this video. Next up we have Chillchuck. Chillchuck is a half-foot, so basically is shorter and lighter than the average human, and half-foots have a shorter lifespan than us. So I'll spoil this because it's not that important. Chillchuck looks like a kid, but he is canonically 29. Note that 29 is adult age for us, but for a half-foot is actually closer to being a middle-aged man, because the average lifespan for a half-foot is about 50 years. Chillchuck is a sassy little man. You see, we really don't know all that much about him, because he likes to keep his professional and personal life separate. In fact, he doesn't come clean about his age until episode 3 or 4. And even after that, Marcille and Senshi, especially Senshi, still think of Chillchuck as a child, which as you can imagine can turn a middle-aged man pretty bitter and thus pretty sassy. He's overall a really fun character, not my favorite, but pretty fun nonetheless. And I think the most interesting part about Chillchuck is that in the beginning you also think Chillchuck is a kid, and you get this impression that he has a childlike personality. You look at him, and because of his cute design and his ridiculously big round ears and overall round-shaped language, you think that he is optimistic and energetic. At least that's how I felt like at first. But then you keep watching and you quickly realize, oh my god, this guy is tired of everyone's silliness. Look at this guy, he's borderline miserable. No wonder he loves to tease the other party members. He's the only one with common sense. So yeah, I drew him with a pretty exhausted face. I gave him a pretty casual outfit, and I also gave him a fanny pack because Chillchuck's job is disarming traps and picklocking. And in one episode, we get to see how much he cares about a job well done, so I definitely needed to give him something to hold his tools. I also kept his neck thing because it's my understanding that it's an important item for him. At some point, I remember that it gets ripped, and he takes the time to sew it back up, so I feel like it must be pretty important. And finally, we have Senshi. Senshi is a dwarf, and he is the, let's say, master chef of the group. He is the oldest of the group, the most experienced in general, but especially when it comes to using the dungeon as his personal pantry. He grows veggies in the dungeon, he knows just as much about monsters as Laios, and he is incredibly skilled at cooking said monsters. He is also incredibly focused on ecosystems and how important a meal is, especially if it is a balanced meal. He's also a fast thinker and is able to come up with recipes on the spot, regardless of the things that they are able to collect during the day. He's very calm and wise. We rarely, if ever, see him get mad at anyone, and he's always trying to serve as a mentor to the remaining members of the party. He especially wants to be a good role model to Chillchuck, who he thinks is a child, despite being told time and time again that Chillchuck is a grown adult. Their interactions are really fun. He's also an extravagant goofball. Again, the bread episode is especially good at showing how goofy Senshi can be. Contributing to his goofiness is his character design. He's always wearing a helmet, and because of his beard, we rarely see any expression other than this goofy face. He's also pretty up there in my favorites list. Another interesting fact about Senshi is that technically he's the only character that receives the fanservice treatment. It doesn't happen too often, but we do get some funny fanservice shots from time to time. When I thought about his modern version, I wanted to dress him like Gordon Ramsay. I love Gordon Ramsay shows, even if he's a bit too much from time to time. You can see that he truly loves his craft, much like Senshi. I really wanted to draw Senshi as Ramsay, but the more I thought about it, the less sense it made. Senshi is much too calm to be compared to Ramsay. Really, the only thing they have in common is just how good they are in the kitchen. I ended up just taking his helmet off, tying his hair back in a ponytail, and giving him a tight t-shirt. Nothing too fancy, but it works just fine with Senshi, and I'm overall really happy with this drawing. And with that, thank you so much for watching. Leave a like and subscribe if you liked the video. If you wanna see more stuff from me, I'm also on Instagram and Twitter at momopudding_chan and on Kara at momopudding. Thank you so much, and until next time,